Welcome to the Ed3 Podcast. My name is Rick, and as always, I'm here with my amazing co-host, Tisha. Tish, obviously people are going to pick up on when we actually recorded this episode and when it's actually gone out, but we've had a recent event that is going to be iconic for the history books. We had the Artemis II launch, and they landed safely yesterday. My question for you, how much of it did NASA fake?
That's a great question that I'm not going to answer. I didn't expect that question, but what I thought you were going to ask me is, one, I thought you were going to ask me how much of it did I watch? And then I thought you were going to ask me...
Oh, yeah, because that's going to relate to how much did they actually fake of it? Because obviously there's so much going on online that I've seen that apparently the rocket was a big balloon. That every time the camera changed was an edit, and everything with regards to all the people that were there watching it, news coverage, the fact that there's scientific proof of everything that was done, planned, all that does not exist, and it was fake. So I'm asking you, just as general, how much do you believe was real and how much do you believe was fake?
I guess I'm going to give you a politician answer because I'm not going to answer that. I am actually going to answer two questions that I anticipated you asking me. The first question is, how much did I watch? I didn't actually watch any of it live. And I'm going to get to why. If you are watching this video, you already know we have a special guest with us who is already emoting about my answers, which we're going to get to. The second thing is, I thought maybe you were going to ask me a little bit about how I felt about a woman being on this Artemis II, right? Like talking sort of about that. But what I want to say is I'm Gen X. We talk about generations a lot here. And it is simply just to give reference for how our generations think. And for me, as a third grader, sitting in a classroom, watching and being excited about the Challenger going into space and watching on live TV the Challenger blowing up and experiencing the very next moments, like TV off, everything's fine, nobody panic, let's just move on, sort of, that was our childhood. And I think for me, I was so excited about it and I love that we're doing it, but there's a little bit of that PTSD where it's like, I don't know. I don't quite know. Right. So I watched the replays of that, but I think that what is so incredible, what I loved about this entire mission is I love the moon. We've talked about that on this podcast. I love talking about the moon. I actually track the moon cycles and will tell people, especially as a teacher, I'd be like, there is a full moon. If you're wondering why people are acting crazy in customer service, at your job, in a classroom, it's probably a full moon. But I loved that they named the bright side of the moon after one of the astronauts' late wives who passed away from breast cancer. I think it was breast cancer. And then also just really loved the communication back and forth. There were the hearts, there were the bracelets, Taylor Swift references. They took pieces of every mission prior to them up to space, like just the honor that they gave to everyone before them. The having a female go up during this time, it just really was such a refreshing,
and also someone of color as well. Because it's the first time that we've actually had a mixed crew, which is an amazing development.
Yes.
I mean, I will answer my own question. It was all real. I'm not saying that I'm a flat earther and NASA's faking everything. I think it's a wonderful representation because this is obviously the first time for all three of us on this call to witness something so historic, because it's been over 50 years since we last visited the moon in this kind of manner. And hopefully this is going to accelerate the passion for the likes of engineering and astrology and astronauts, all that kind of stuff in this sector, really, because apart from SpaceX, we've only been traveling to the International Space Station. and doing
Mhm.
experiments in space that way. This is the furthest we've ever been from the Earth.
Yeah. And
It's a
and the fact that they
revolution.
the most dangerous part was them coming back in and
Mm.
landing in Earth, and that, I was nervous about that. I mean, for obvious
Oh, we all
reasons,
were.
like, I was
We all
so
were.
nervous about that, but I think what is the other biggest piece of this is they're all Generation X, and I just wanna shout out Gen X because the Gen X crew, I say all the time, is the best crew. But that doesn't mean that they're the only cool people. We have a guest with us today, a very special guest. So I'm going to introduce someone who represents kind of the kind of growth that we hope for every student. Avery is very special, obviously. If you know, some of you remember Avery. Avery actually worked at the Wakelet booth at TCA 2022 with you, Rick,
Yep, that was the
and
first time
me.
we met.
Along with Honora was there. I think Honora was the other student that we had. And the thing is, um, Avery, that was in 2022. It is 2026 now. We want to talk a little bit with Avery about some of the learning that she's experienced since graduating high school, and reflect on what has she learned now in the real world that she didn't learn in high school, that she wishes she had known, or that she thinks students should learn right now, and if they're not learning it, they're probably a little bit behind. So today she's going to share those things. And so officially, welcome to the Play Ed3 podcast, Avery. How are you?
I am fantastic. How are y'all?
We're doing
We're good.
great.
We're good.
Amazing. Did I say something funny?
No, you just, your energy is so good wherever you go. And I think that is what is so fascinating. Like, we're going to talk about you being a manager and working customer service. And I think one of the things that I love about you, not because I'm related to you, but what I love about you is that anytime you are with other people, you have this energy, this brilliance, and this joy
Hmm.
that comes out. And so when people are smiling and laughing, it's because of that. And I think for
Ah,
Rick and I, we just think you are brilliant, and you're also very humorous, which you've always been humorous.
yes.
Just very quick-witted. But we really want to learn about school, how what things in school give you as a student strong foundation. What are some of the most impactful lessons that you've experienced since being in school? What were you prepared for? What were you not prepared for? You can
Oh,
answer any of that.
This
okay.
podcast, for example, if that's one of your preparations.
I guess to start off, I didn't feel like my life actually started until after I graduated, until
Mhm.
I entered the world web, and I didn't choose to go to college, so it was like it really started going. Everything that I was in charge of, it was up to me. Like, I was making every decision for myself at that
Mhm.
time
Mhm.
after I graduated,
Mhm.
and I didn't feel like it I didn't feel like, I was my own person until after I left brick and mortar, which that was a whole other
Hmm.
situation. It was like I got to experience autonomy for the first time
Mhm.
and what it felt like to be in charge of myself,
Wow.
which
That's
was
fascinating. So
yeah,
what you're saying is you truly didn't feel like you were in charge of who you were until you left the
yes,
traditional school setting and you went out into the world.
easily, easily. There is something about especially because of what the time that I left was, like, it was right after COVID, it was such a period of isolation. There is something about being alone that you really have to, like, sit with yourself, face
Mhm.
yourself. What do you like? What do you not like? Who are you as a person? And then because of that, once you figure that out, you start to realize how influenced you are by the people around you without even thinking about it.
Mm.
That's a great tip
That's
right there.
Yeah, that is incredible. That. So,
Mhm.
what would you say would be the just based on that? What
Mhm.
would you say to anyone that is going to be graduating this year or getting close to graduating, whether they're going to college or doing what you did and going straight into work
The workforce,
or
yeah,
whatever
career.
they want to do?
Yeah.
What would you say is something that stood out the biggest that you would recommend other people do to help them understand themselves?
Uh, Learn how to be comfortable trusting yourself, and which is trusting yourself and like the things that you want to do. That is probably one of the most uncomfortable things, but it is important to find comfortability in that. Because
Mm.
once you graduate, and even for some people in school, because of what their household looks like, you are making the decisions for yourself. The things you want. I was talking to somebody at work about this recently, how she was in a similar boat. She didn't feel like her life actually started until after she graduated. She didn't feel like she was real. Like it is such an interesting feeling
It's
being
so
out of an environment
It makes
where
Mhm.
sense though.
yeah,
Like
it
it
does.
makes complete sense because we are with our parents. Our parents are making
Mhm.
decisions for us. Our parents know better, right? The parents are kind of dictating what's happening, where you're living. I mean, right? I mean, where you are even living, going to school, like all of those things.
Mhm.
And then you go to school, and then you also, we've talked about this in our book. Like we asked and polled students for this book, what decisions do you get to make while you're a student in school? And I think the top answer was like, what I have for lunch,
Yep.
where I sit in the lunchroom, and sometimes what backpack I want, right?
Mhm.
And that told us so much
Mhm.
about what students are able to decide for themselves. And I think that's so interesting because what that tells me, her answer tells me, wow, she's not given many opportunities to critically think and decide something for herself.
Mhm.
So, would I be correct in saying that one of your tips for parents and teachers and students is creating more opportunities for students to be able to critically think a decision and make a decision and follow that decision through?
Yes. I
Yeah.
think that would be one of the most important things. Because if you actually think on it, I have been out of the classroom for however many years, but
Mhm.
we were told where to sit, we were created assigned seating, we were told when we could leave, we were told if we could go to the bathroom or not, like all these different things. I was watching Mean Girls the other day, and there's this
Mhm.
scene in Mean Girls where she gets up to go to the bathroom and then gets yelled at. And she
Mhm.
says, it was so weird being in a place where adults didn't trust me to make decisions.
Mhm.
And I
Mm.
think that's another thing. Like, yes, we also need to trust ourselves to make decisions, but the people around us and the adults and the authority in our lives also need to trust us.
Mhm.
Just
Mhm.
because we
Mhm.
are young and we are students doesn't mean we're dumb. Like, we can make smart decisions that are beneficial for ourselves.
Yeah. It's because that's the thing. It's essentially if they give them way too much freedom, some students will abuse it. It's like the whole
Mhm.
saying of
Mhm.
give someone an inch, they'll take a mile approach.
Mhm.
Uh, but they also just go and say, well, it's one or the other. You either have authority or you don't have authority. But
Mhm.
there is always that middle ground. We've always said it's not binary. There's not yes or no, one or zero. There's flexibility there that can actually go into it. But I'm actually curious. I know the focus was to ask for Avery's opinions, but I'm just thinking, Tish, being a former teacher, I remember we were having a conversation, and one of the things you liked about school when you were working there, because of your
Mhm.
ADHD, having that structure in place
Yeah.
of you are doing this, this, and this at this time. You can go have lunch between these hours, and
Mhm. The
that's
day
what
was
it was.
structured.
The day was structured. You were obviously had that kind of strict process, but you also had some form of flexibility in some of the stuff that you could do.
Mhm.
Essentially, the teachers have that little bit of flexibility, but
Mhm.
they're passing on the strict rules
Yeah.
onto the students, and the
Yeah.
flexibility is non-existent
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
sense.
I think what is it's so it we talk about balance all the time on this podcast, right? Like ed tech, we've talked about ed tech isn't the problem, the devices aren't the problem, it's not all or nothing. I think From a teacher perspective, once I became a teacher, yeah, you have more autonomy. You can go to the restroom when you need to. Y but there's still limits, and I think that is what is interesting. There are still so many limits to what a teacher can do that people aren't seeing. And I
Mm.
think you're right. I think I've always said that leadership is like a water fountain, right? So whoever's at the top, however they are operating, nobody would have to know how they're operating, what their leadership style looks like. All you have to do is sit in the room with a student or a teacher, and that will tell you everything about how the top leadership is working. Same thing for a
Mm.
company, an organization, a startup, it could be anything. And so I think that there are superintendents, there are school boards, there are leaders who are more bought into what Avery said. Let's trust our students to make decisions. Let's trust our students. Let's have them do podcasts and videos, and let's get them out there and experience things. And then you have leaders, superintendents, school boards, parents, teachers who are more of the idea that we need to control this. And the control is what I will always talk about. The control is really just fear. Control is really fear that you're going to not like the outcome if you don't
Mhm.
control that thing. And I think there has to be balance. Classroom management is something that I actually had a class on, and not many people had a classroom management class, which basically, if you're new to the term classroom management, it just means what are your ideals, what are your philosophies, what are your strategies to manage a class of students, a large group of people in a single room in a certain time frame. And you could get a whole doctorate and research all of that by itself. One of the things I learned about classroom management was something called love and logic. And I don't think I've talked about it on this podcast ever before. But I was really lucky early in my career. The author of Love and Logic was in the area, and I got to go to a conference. And I did not grow up under this type of thinking. So it was completely new to me. But basically, what Love and Logic is you are wanting your students, your kids, anybody to really do something. Don't demand it, don't control it. Give them options. Only give options that you're okay with. So it'd be like if
Mm.
we all went out for ice cream, and I'm paying for everybody, and I basically say to you all in the car, I'm like, "Hey, I'm gonna take you to a real bougie, like, ice cream shop. Um, what I would really love is I would love for you to either get a cup or a cone, a regular cone, and, like, 1 scoop of whatever you want." So I've given you some options, but I've also given you some guardrails, and what that did is it kind of guards me from spending $75 on ice cream for everybody, right? But I still want to give you autonomy in your cup or cone. I want to give you autonomy in your flavor. And so I learned that very early on. Not everybody practices love and logic. I did not grow up in a household that, I mean, that's not how things went. It was like, you are eating this or you are not leaving the table. You will sit here until you finish that. You might sleep at the table, kind of. That's how I grew up. It was very much like that. You did not get an option in what you were wearing. Your clothes were bought for you. I mean, just things like that. So that was a foreign concept to me. But as a teacher, I knew that demanding something, and as a kid of that, I knew demanding something and controlling everything was not going to get me the result I needed. We talk about that a lot. And so I want to hear from Avery on this, because not all teachers are going to operate in that. Let me give you these choices and let you practice critical thinking and autonomy. So what would you say if you were looking at the percentage of your teachers just over the course of your time in school, so K-12, what would you say the percentage of teachers you had operated in that love and logic model? How many teachers gave you multiple opportunities to think and choose?
That's a lot of teachers. I
It
would
is.
maybe say I couldn't even name one. I'm thinking just off the dome. I
You
couldn't give
can't
you a
think of
name.
one?
I don't
I can think of one that
maybe
you had.
2 or 3?
Mhm. Mhm.
2 or 3? But
Mhm.
they weren't like I don't
The
know,
2 or 3 you're thinking of are probably
our
in your high
family
school,
friends.
and I was
Yeah.
gonna say the reason that I'm still friends with them is because we all have that same
Yeah.
kind of
The 2 or
mindset.
3 I'm thinking of are, like, ones that would be
Yeah.
invited to my wedding,
You can
but,
actually shout some of them out if you would like to shout them out because they deserve a shout out.
Cynthia Baker, Emily Orr, and maybe Allison Johnston. I
Mhm.
think those are the 3
That you had. You
that
never had,
yeah,
Miss Reed. Miss Reed
I
was
never had as a
very
teacher.
much into that
Yes.
mindset. So that's
Well,
interesting that so out of those people, you couldn't name another teacher that really, because I can still think, as your mom, I can think back to some teachers early in your career.
Yeah, but it's easier for
yeah, but
you, Tish, to remember that.
It is
yeah,
easier for me,
and
yeah.
it would be different because you weren't their student, you
Sure,
know?
sure.
I
Hmm.
think that, even if I was given a choice, it would be like, "Okay, what kind of project do you want to do? Do you wanna do a slideshow? Do you wanna do a oral presentation?" Or any stuff like that. It wouldn't be
Right.
like actual choices where I should critically think about what I want to do. I wanna touch on that also,
Mm,
like,
please, let's gab.
because they are not teaching critical thinking, they are not fostering and nurturing autonomy for a student. People are then conditioned to be in this environment where they are dependent on others, and then they graduate
Hmm.
and then they go into a workforce expecting that same environment where they have to ask permission for everything, where they cannot make choices on their own, and then they start paying bills, they start going into relationships also having that mindset of dependency. I see it all the time. work in a job where it's a lot of people's first jobs. It was my
Mm,
first job,
mhm.
and they will come up to me and ask me questions that I don't need to answer that for them. They will
Give
ask
us an
me if they
example.
can. I had someone come up to me one time, ask if they could throw something away, and I'm not even kidding, and I looked at them and I said, "What do you think?" Like, you answer their
Hmm.
question with a question. "What do you think you
Mm,
should do?
Yep.
You can do
mhm,
whatever you want. This is not up to me." I use that all the time, answering questions with questions, because if you always give them the answer, they're never going to learn how to think on their own.
mhm,
Hmm.
mhm. Yes.
Absolutely. And that, I completely agree with that because we've had some teachers that have uh, said exactly the same thing.
Mhm,
It's not about if someone has a query or wants to look into something, don't be like, no, you can't do that. Don't be the
mhm,
controlling one that's going to dictate what they can and
mhm,
can't do.
mhm.
Start to ask, why do you want to do it like that? Why do you think this is going to be the right approach?
Yes.
What do you think? As you say, I'm deciding whether I should do this or this. Well, what do you think? Make them, because at the same time, you want to make them fail as well, or push them in in a direction and make a choice. If you fail, that's okay
Mhm.
as well.
Yeah,
No one's going
I
to
agree.
learn if they just think that, oh, that's the way to do it, as Tish always says and has drilled it into me
There's a
since.
way,
There's
not the
a
way.
way, not the way.
Mhm.
Yes.
So what's
I've always
interesting,
go
Yeah.
ahead.
well, I was just gonna say, I wanna just reiterate what you said because you
Mhm.
said they're coming to you asking questions and asking permission for things that really neither of you should spend the energy or time on. They should already come to you with that knowledge, right? This is actually one of the very things when we were writing our book, Today's Learners, Tomorrow's Leaders. I interviewed some people in businesses, and that was the exact thing that they said. I believe it was Will, said in our book, if they would come to us with this knowledge, I wouldn't feel like I have to stop everything I'm doing, all orders of operations within this business to teach this 16-year-old, 18-year-old, the basics of just like this role, this job, whatever they're doing, right? A bar back, a busboy, whatever their role is. He was like, I could save so much time if they would come to me with this knowledge. And really,
Hmm.
they're not learning this at school, they're not learning it at home. They don't have the experience of these environments, these real world environments, to even they don't have anything to reference it because they're being told everything. So, is there anything else, just from your management perspective, now that you've been in that role for a while, like what is something else that you see these young students struggle with besides the critical thinking of throwing something away? What else?
They're so scared to make a mistake.
Mm.
They're so fearful of failing in small ways because they're taught that, I mean, in
What are the
school, you're
consequences?
taught, like,
Yeah.
not to fail. Yeah. If you fail once or if you make a mistake, like, there's punishment.
Mhm.
And I think that punishment can only go so far. Punishment or consequences or discipline, however you wanna call it, sometimes it's just not beneficial, and sometimes it does more harm than good.
Mhm. I
I
agree.
Mhm.
I believe in leading when working with people, leading with grace and also leading with curiosity. Understanding that
Mhm.
person and understanding that not every person works the same way or learns the same way.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
yeah, the most important thing in school or in a work environment is connection, is people. Understanding on a person-to-person scale how they work, how they operate, and in a teaching position, it's obviously hard to do that because you see
Mhm.
so many students coming and going, but it's doable. I've seen it done with teachers that I've had that
Yeah.
actually make individual connections with each of their
Mhm.
students, understanding what they need from you, how they learn, how they operate, and it also builds people skills with that student. Then they
Mhm.
learn how to build
Mhm.
connections with other people.
Sure. Sure. I think that's interesting what you just said, because I think that idea of building connection doesn't stop in the classroom. It doesn't stop in your college classes, doesn't stop in career. Even my working community, I will tell you that the biggest impact that I have seen working with communities is one-to-one coffee chats. And what's
Mhm.
interesting about one-to-one coffee chat is, a one-to-one coffee chat is not gonna get me a $20,000, sales. Like, I'm not gonna get that with a one-to-one coffee chat unless I might just be really good at it, right? But with a community member, sometimes that one-to-one 20-minute coffee chat, because they feel seen, because they feel heard, because they feel connected with, because they feel like you've empathized with them, they become so loyal to you and your brand. I mean, we saw that at Wakelet when we worked there. I mean, I remember James actually being on calls with the community all
Yep.
hours of the day and night, UK time, because if it was 3 p.m. here in Texas, it was 9 p.m. for him, and he was on a call, right, with community members, just on these very quick calls. I just think there's something to say about what you've said, and especially in the age of AI, where it seems like we're doing more automations with that. Like, what are your thoughts with that? How often are you seeing AI in your role right now? And what do you predict AI will have a role in later? Like, what are you seeing?
I don't see a ton of it right now,
Mhm.
obviously, because I'm in a very people-oriented
Mhm.
Mhm.
position.
Yep.
I have seen, like, where there are, automated machine restaurants already. Like, I
Mhm.
just saw a video recently. But I think that people is such a unique art, and it is so crucial to our environment, our worlds, who we are as a species.
Mhm.
Um,
People
I
want
think that
connection.
people, like, hunger for connection.
Mhm.
We
Yep.
saw that with COVID when
Sure.
nobody was able to have that, and it
Mhm.
created a online connection. They were trying to get anything they could.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is it is our foundation of who we are no matter where we're from or what race or ethnicity or gender, like, it is who we are. Connection is the most
Mhm.
important thing. It is why we're talking right now.
Sure. Sure.
Absolutely.
I
I
Absolutely.
think
saw.
that
Oh, go ahead.
yeah, go ahead.
No, no, you go
Oh,
ahead.
okay. I think
I can
that
tell you're both related.
wait, in school, I think that that is not touched on a lot. We I mean, they do not prioritize that at all. Understanding on a deeper scale where we even are on Earth, like, that that we exist, that
Mhm.
they it's hard to articulate because I feel so passionate about this, but they almost enable all of us to just pass each other in the halls or not really talk to each other or even understand how to carry a conversation. I didn't fully understand how to carry a conversation until after I graduated high school, until after I got a job, and it was such a struggle.
Talk to us
Talking
about
to
that. What was the what did you find in that struggle, and how are you now? How did you develop that?
In every way I developed that. Before, whenever I would talk to people and serve them, and I would be almost in tears because I was just anxious. Like, talking to people made me so anxious, and I remember being younger that it was so difficult for me to carry a conversation or even go up to somebody and initiate a
I remember.
conversation.
Mhm.
So it was such a struggle. And now with being in that environment and sort of forced to have to do that and learning how to make myself feel more comfortable doing that, it's like a full 180. Like,
Mhm.
Uh,
I can just go up to any stranger, not even in the work environment, and just have a conversation with them. And I think that is something that is so crucial. Knowing how to talk to people and how to connect with them is something that will get you farther than any degree.
Mhm. Mhm.
You
yeah,
you can do so much with that skill.
yeah.
Rick, do you have anything you want to add? I saw your face when I asked about AI. I know it's late in the UK, so I hope you're not falling asleep on us yet.
Trying not to. It's currently 10:30 for me here. But no, I think you know my opinion with AI. I think it is a technology that is going to be and is being beneficial in a lot of instances, but as you said, Avery, it's not going to replace that human connection.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think one of the biggest, most important things in school is that connection between the teacher and the student, and also the principals to the teachers, the admins to the teachers, all interconnected. If you start to use AI to do everything, like giving feedback, monitoring progress across the board, everything, you're going to damage that connection even further because you're literally trying to replace every single activity that people in school do with technology, which is just completely the wrong way that we need to be going about it because connection is the most powerful. We don't do enough of it still. So we need to encourage more of it to be done in the classroom. And if AI can just help with taking some of the workload off so that the teachers and everyone can actually connect with the people correctly, help them perform better, that's the most beneficial. But I'm seeing AI. I can see people using AI in the right ways, but I can also see people using AI in the wrong ways as like a shortcut, not having to do certain things.
Well,
And
that's a
that's
good
where it
question.
worries me.
I want to ask Avery, do you think that students in the classroom today need to be taught about AI and how to utilize AI or any technology in their career, in the workforce, in their jobs? Like, what did you struggle with the technology when you got to this job? As a manager, do you see students struggle with technology with their phones, whether it's like their attention or even utilizing the technology, at your business? Like, what are you seeing? And what do you think that they should be learning now in the classroom?
I definitely think they should be taught how to utilize it. I see a lot of it being used. I work with a lot of students, so I see a lot of it being used as a crutch.
Mm,
Um, Not that they are, but, like, in general, I think students sometimes use it as a crutch, which then fosters more dependency because 'cause they're like, "Oh, I don't know this thing." Instead of actually learning and problem solving through that, it's, "Let me just easily look this up so I can get
mhm.
a direct answer and then use that."
Yeah, it's like
Um,
Mhm.
they're missing that in between, that struggle
yes.
a little bit,
Yes.
the
And I
curiosity.
think it's important to struggle. It's important to be curious and find things out. We have so much at our fingertips right now. It's a privilege.
Mhm,
And there are
Yeah.
so many people before us that didn't have that.
mhm.
And it's incredible that we got to this point, yes, and I think it's a lot there's benefit to it, obviously, but it's like with anything, you have to find the balance between that. Balance is so important with everything that we have now.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
It is.
Rick, do
It
you have
really
any
is.
additional questions? Because we haven't told Avery about the Juice Box Confessional segment of
Oh,
our podcast.
That's
do we
normally
get
your
juice
job to do
boxes
that.
or what?
It is my job, and I didn't tell her on purpose because I wanted it.
Mm.
It's gonna be good. You're gonna gab. You're gonna love it. But I want Rick to
This
ask
is going to
any
be an
additional.
interesting one. This is going to be an interesting juice box because
It
normally it's
will be.
retro 80s,
Yeah.
90s, and
Yeah.
as
And
we've already clarified,
we got a Gen
Avery's
Zer with
not.
us.
Yeah.
But
Oh, we
if
don't
you
get juice boxes or
you will get a
I'm
Juice Box
sorry to.
Confessional. The questions
No,
are
she's
just
saying if
different.
you'll have a juice
I
box,
want
not juice box.
actual
She
juice
wants a
box.
physical
She wants
juice
a
box.
physical juice box. You know what, Avery? I will buy you some juice boxes just as your reward for taking time out of your day
Oh,
to share with us. So yes, you will get a real juice box. She was the
wow.
kid that loved juice boxes and apple
I
juices,
love
and
juice.
she likes
I
juice.
love juice.
And we'll have to get
I
you
talk
over
about
to
it
the
all the
UK
time.
and have some cordial.
Oh yeah, do you know about cordial?
What is that? That sounds scary. What
Or
is it?
what do we call it? Cordial or squash?
Yes, it's
Basically is high concentrated fruit
juice.
juice.
What
that
kind of
you
fruit? Or like any
well
fruit?
various. I mean, there's oranges, obviously the classic, lime, passion fruit, different
Is it just
variants.
like define high concentrated? Is it just like a
Well,
lot of
let's
orange juice?
yeah,
Or
you know
like
how
what?
basically it's like a fruit juice liquid that you'd only put a little bit in a glass and then fill the rest up with water.
That's not even juice.
Well,
I mean,
it's cordial.
That's
It's
like
what
a
we call
splash of
cordial or
juice.
squash.
or if you're
Just don't
Ryan
do what
McGinnis.
Ryan
Shout out
McGinnis
to
did.
Ryan McGinnis when we were at the Wakelet office. He saw the cordial on the kitchen table at the office kitchen, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna have some juice." He poured his coffee mug all
Yeah.
the way up, drank the whole thing, and then
See,
wondered why he was like
yes.
high on sugar.
That's
Yeah.
the American way. Just give me
Yeah.
that glass of just pure sugar. I need it.
I love it. Well, that's a great segue
Cool.
into Juice Box Confessionals, Rick. Do
Yep.
you have any questions though left for Avery to wrap up on this topic?
I do not. I think
Okay.
we've got. Yeah, I think
She
we've
had
got a
some
good
really great
finish
answers.
offer. Yeah,
Yeah, she
it
did.
was. Yeah.
Okay, so Juice Box Confessionals is just a random group of questions that I ask our guests, and Rick is right. Often it will be retro questions about what was their favorite Trapper Keeper image on their Trapper Keeper. What did they take to lunch? I mean, what?
Hold on. I just want to ask the first question. Avery, do you know what a trapper keeper is?
I had a Trapper Keeper.
Oh dear God.
They're still
Okay.
around.
They are. They are. Well, they were
I'm just
always.
gonna stay quiet then. All
They
right.
weren't
Okay.
always around. There was a lull, a little bit of an absence of the Trapper Keeper, and then yes, Avery does have one. Rick did not get.
We don't have them in the UK. That's why I was
Get
asking. I thought it was
Aw.
an 80s thing in the US. I thought I'd have someone
Now he's just
to
sad.
Sorry, Rick.
We'll have
Yeah.
to buy him a Trapper Keeper and send one over for him so he could take it to
I
work.
think
I'm
you'd
gonna be
love
in
it. You'd love a Trapper Keeper.
There you go.
We'll
I'm
get
gonna
you
be in
one for-
Orlando,
yeah.
so you might as well get it ready for that.
Avery and I will pick one out for you. We'll bring it to you. That will be your American souvenir.
We can bedazzle your name on it. Your initials.
I look forward to
RB.
it.
Puff
In
paint.
jewels.
We can
Yes.
do puffy paint on it.
With
Okay.
glitter.
Yeah. Okay, so Avery, did you think adulthood was going to feel like full on main character moments? Like what did you feel, and what was your biggest reality check once you became an official adult?
Oh, like what were my expectations of
Yeah,
adulthood?
like, what was your
versus-
expectation, and then what was the reality?
Honestly, they kind of match.
Okay.
My expectations and my reality in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I didn't expect to learn as many lessons as I have in adulthood. And then obviously the reality is it's like every day I'm learning something new about the world or myself, just in general.
Yeah.
But I definitely have more freedom and more autonomy, and that was what I expected.
Yeah. What's the funniest lesson that you learned? What's the funniest lesson you've learned in adulthood so far?
Oh gosh, there's just so many. I don't even know how to choose. Um, the funniest lesson?
You can pass.
I don't know if I have a specific one. It's just like
Is there
all the time.
Is there one that you would like that you go to that your brain goes to like, "Oh, there's that lesson again. Oh, there's that lesson again." What is it?
Oh my gosh, yeah, actually. There's just I was talking to somebody about this the other day, but there are just never-ending loads of laundry. Like, we are wearing, and I've been doing laundry for just so many years, even before I moved out. But
Yeah.
it's like now that I'm in my own home, and it's like I'm in charge of all of these different things within my own home. It's just it doesn't stop. Like, you're wearing your next load. I've got my next load in. Like, I've got some in the dryer. Like, it's just never ending. There's always something to clean. Like, I have to clean every day. It's an everyday thing. And do you know what the worst part is?
What?
It doesn't stop. Like,
Yeah, it
it's
doesn't.
just gonna keep
It just
going
keeps going. And this
forever.
And this is why Rick and I talk about this a lot, but minimalism is the best way because the less you have, the less
it
you
isn't
have
when
to
it
clean.
comes to washing.
It
Unless
is.
you're
And
literally
it's
saying I'm going to wear the
true.
same thing for 7 days
I
and not
mean,
put it
But
in.
like, yeah, minimalism isn't fun though. It like takes the fun out of life. Like, I
can.
understand it makes life easier, but I'm trying to live. Like, I want to have fun. I love stuff.
I mean,
But
that's
the cleaning
what,
aspects, yeah.
that's funny. That's a good one.
I love stuff.
Do you ever did you ever feel before I love stuff. I love that you said that. Did you ever feel like success had to look perfect when you were before you were an adult? And then how has your perspective changed now that you are in the real world?
Yeah, this sort of goes back to what I said earlier, but I was, and sometimes still am, because it's hard to unlearn, but just so scared of making mistakes, so scared of messing up, scared that I was going to be in trouble. Sometimes I still struggle with that. I thought success had to be what everybody wanted it to
What
be for
everybody else.
myself. Yes, or what everybody else's life looked like. Now, obviously, I don't feel that way. Like, success is whatever you make it. It doesn't have to be based on your accomplishments or anything that, you're taught that it's supposed to look like. It can just be like, hey, you're doing your best.
Yeah.
And you're doing what you want. That's another thing that I'm so encouraging on, like, do what you want, because this is your life and you are the person that has to live with your decisions, not anybody else. Like, this is for you. I think over time I've gotten more comfortable with failing or making mistakes, because that's where you learn. That's where you learn the most about who you are and how you operate and how you problem solve.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Okay. What's something about adulthood that everybody is pretending to understand, but no one actually does?
I can't speak for everybody, but I can speak for myself. I still don't understand how retirement plans work. And I think I was taught this, maybe, but it's not something they like really go hard in the paint on. Like, it is just something they like glaze over like years before you actually should figure it out. And then all of a sudden it's in front of your face and you're like, oh, I actually don't really understand how this works. 401k, Roth IRA. I like know the basics, but I could not like feel comfortable teaching it to somebody else.
What about like the stock market or crypto, like investing?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if I'm like, I feel like I'm just past the point of learning that.
No, I don't think that's true. I think you
Maybe
know
not,
a
but
really smart
No.
person who is on this call who knows all of the things, and you could probably pay him a small amount of money to coach you with that.
I'll do it for free.
I know you would, Rick, and that would be so amazing.
So
That would be great.
we've got a deal.
Yay.
Last question. And this is just because I know you well, and it's something that I've learned as an adult. It took me a really long time to learn how to do this, but you were talking about like the stresses, the chores, the cleaning. It never ends. It doesn't matter how old you are. It never ends. It's always going to be there. So is there any ways, do you ever romanticize those things, pretending like you were in a movie? Or like, how do you, because I know that you are so creative and you're so fun and you were in theater and you're very artistic. Like, how do you get through that? And do you think those things matter as much as people say they do?
Do I think the
Chores, the bills,
Rick's
the money, the laundry, the
I'm
cleaning?
trying-
Okay, I understand. I'm ready. So,
Rick, are you ready?
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to work out what the question was in that one, but anyway,
there's
continue.
several questions.
Several
I've got
questions.
this.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yep.
The first thing. Do I ever romanticize those aspects? I don't know. Not in like a fun whimsy way, but I have figured out a like I understand more about how I operate when it comes to those things
Mhm.
after moving out.
Mhm.
I'm very routine oriented. I do the same things every day. I
That
have my calendar.
neurodivergence.
Yeah, I have my calendar
Yeah.
mapped out a month in advance.
Yeah, if you want Avery's
so-
time, you better plan a month in advance. And if you were a last minute girl like me,
I do not work day of. Okay, not anymore. That was easier when I didn't have responsibilities. So I have like a cleaning day. And I learned that yes, I'm routine oriented, but it's okay not to be super strict on that. And it's okay to have some flexibility. And I've learned to take advantage of when I get in those random bursts of just motivation to do all these things. So I've learned to be flexible with myself and also have a more structured life with
it's the tale
with
as
those
old
chores
as
and those
time.
things.
It's the neurodivergent need for structure and routine, but then also the need for like whimsy, like fly by the seat of our pants.
Yeah. Yeah, because there will be those days where I'm just like, I need to clean everything because it's getting to a point where it's making me upset being in this environment, and I would just go. And I make it fun. Like I'll have music, or I'll listen to YouTube, or I'll have
Yeah.
a movie on,
Mhm.
or
Well, this is
I'll
good because this is leading into my very last question, which I just thought of. Rick knows. Sometimes I'll say it's the last question and then I'll have one more, but I want to ask you this. Is there a moment, now that you've been out of school for a while, is there a moment where you went, oh no, I'm way older than I thought I was? Is there a moment with those coworkers, with the younger generation, Gen Zs, where you went, oh my God, they don't know blank. They don't know that musician. They don't know that song. They don't know that movie or that
Yes.
reference. What
all
was
the
the moment?
time. No, they're every day. They're all the time whenever I see like kids walking through, and I can't tell age. I struggle with that. I will look at a person and think you're one age and you're 7 years older. It's a whole thing. But it's talking to people that are part of my staff, and they're 17 and they're graduating high school, and I was their age when I started. It is so weird being in that position because I feel like I'm at a point in my life where I am so young, but I am also so old. Like I feel older than I was. It's such a weird feeling because I understand, and I'm not, ignorant to the fact that I am very young. I am at a very young point in my life, but it's so weird because you're at that middle point where you're also old.
Would you say that we can all actually say that? Because
Yeah.
at this point, I'm like, well, compared to you and Gen Z, we're like, oh, like Jace calls Rick and I Unk, right? That's a reference
Not
for being
impressed with
old.
that.
But when I go out, like I was at physical therapy for like 6 weeks. When I go to physical therapy, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm the young one, right? And so we all have that. It is a weird feeling to know at the
Yes, it's
same
so
time that you
weird.
feel old, you also are young. And I think
And
that
it doesn't stop, really.
won't
It
stop
it just continues,
until it's
and
over.
yeah. So, back to that actually, to answer your other last part of that, the
I'm
other
ready.
question was, are those things, those monotonous routine things super important in the grand scheme of things? No, they're not. Because there is a certain point where it's over. And when you think of life on those terms, it seems really like, oh, but it's it's like, oh my gosh. But I think a lot of us try to avoid the fact that this is like our life, and it is what you make it. And it's important
One shot.
to try your best and learn what you can and teach yourself things if no one's teaching them to you, which goes back to what all of this was about, is learning and teaching and being in school and trying to do your best through those day-to-day things and to make the most of the circumstances that you're given.
Wow. This was great,
That's a
Avery.
way to finish it.
This
So,
was great.
so wise and brilliant. We're so grateful that you spent so much time after a long day at work before you're probably going to go do some laundry with us.
Oh,
Thank
I'm
you.
eating steak.
Oh, you're having steak later.
There
So is
you
Yes,
Rick.
go.
I'm having steak.
I didn't
So
get the
excited.
memo. You and Rick apparently have steak day, and
It's Saturday.
Today's
means steak.
National Steak Day. Oh, pardon.
Oh.
It's International Steak Day.
There you go.
Oh, pardon.
Had to include
the
Rick.
Brits.
Yes. Yes.
Well, Avery, do you have any other words of wisdom that you would like to leave with our listeners, and specifically to teachers who are listening? What advice do you have for them as they go into their week with their students, whether they are new teachers or veteran teachers? What do you want them to know?
Be patient with yourself as well as being patient with others, and lead with grace,
So good.
because that's one of the most important things you can do.
Thank you, Avery.
Thank y'all.
Amazing. Awesome.
Avery?
Well,
Yay.
if you've made it this far in the episode and you've enjoyed it, please give us a thumbs up, comment on any questions that you have, any ideas, thoughts, anything like that. If you
Avery?
want to...
Yeah, if you want to follow Avery, would you
I've
like
never
people...
been that interrupted on the ending of an episode.
I'm so
My
sorry, Rick, I'm
goodness.
so sorry, because we didn't ask Avery. We didn't offer her yet if she wanted people to connect with her. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry to both of you. Avery, you don't have to be connected with. We can just have them DM us. Y'all both got really
Yes.
sad.
If you really want to connect with me, DM them to get in touch with me. Let's do that. Let's have them work for it. You can't be spoon-fed all of this information. You gotta really want it.
So if you've really made it to the end of the episode now, that's one hell of a way to finish it. Yeah, if you want to reach out to Avery, then you'll have to message us through the Player 3
you gotta get
socials.
through them to get through me.
Yeah.
We're the agents.
Yep.
Always meant to be a star.
Yes. So yeah, if you want to get in touch with Avery or ourselves, all the links are down in the description below. Please, if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, please leave us a review. It all helps. And until next week, we'll see you then. Bye for now.
Bye.